Friends, let's open up today asking the question, how long have we known about fungal diseases? Actually, fungus was among the first proven causes of disease. Goes way back. I'll educate you on that. Dr. Mike Smith from Life Extension is going to join us today and talk about electromagnetic fields. Are there really products that might help us minimize our exposure to EMFs? And finally, my good friend Dr. David Perlmutter in Florida, who's a neurologist, has written a new book called Brainwash. We'll expound on that. I did a Skype interview with him. All that and more on this Know the Cause.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate. And you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
You know, it's a pretty good thing I'm not a physician because I would look with suspicion at every patient who came in to see me. That suspicion would be, yeah, they appear with migraines or hormonal problems or arthritis or a lump on their neck or cancer or gout. The suspicion would be that this is just a yeast problem. And if you take symptoms and gather them into a box, they can progress to a disease. And that disease started with something. It doesn't just, they say genetics plays a role in 5 to 10% of all our illnesses. I don't know if I buy that. I believe in epigenetics, not the hand mom and dad dealt me, but rather my exercise, my diet, my living actively antifungal, etc. I think all of that has to do much more with your genetic profile than a hand mom and dad gave you and you get blood drawn or do a cheek swab and send it off to a laboratory and they tell you what disease you're going to have in the future. Not. Don't buy it, okay? So I want to start by telling you how I conjured up this belief that everything was fungus. I worked in ear, nose, and throat, internal medicine, and dermatology with doctors who really liked me when I got back from Vietnam because if they couldn't help a patient with psoriasis, I said, let's put them on antifungal drugs, the Kaufmann Diet, and see if they get better. And folks, this was a home run, and you can benefit from this information. Let's start by defining the word fungus. What is it? Okay. The book I love, Fundamentals of the Fungi by Elizabeth Moore Landacker. She wrote this in 1972. A simple plant is what fungus is that lacks green chlorophyll, so it must eat. Normally it survives by eating dead or decaying vegetation, but it can also become a parasite in man. Wow, like a tapeworm. It can live as long as we feed it, give it comfort, shelter, a place to stay. Says Dr. Mike Rinaldi in 1998, fungus was among the first proven causes of an infectious disease. It was silkworm south of France hundreds of years ago, but it was the first infectious disease ever known. Now we know that it parasitizes man, and so many of our symptoms probably are linked to fungus, but there's that many antibiotics in the pharmacy and that many antivirals and that many antifungals. So a medical student learns the first year in medical school, everything's bacteria, some things are virus, rarely does a fungus play a role in any illness. Okay, I think that's wrong. Look at the dates here. Synopsis of pathology, the year was 1942. Fungal infections are not rare in man and are frequently serious. This is before antibiotics, which encourage fungal infections. 1944, Duke University. Fungal infections are of such common occurrence, we have found it necessary to consider fungal diseases in the differential diagnosis of practically every obscure infection. Isn't that what I just said opening this? If I were a doctor, I'd suspect that everything that came in my door had a fungal etiology. How do you do that? Ask the patient if they want to try resveratrol, vitamin D, caprylic acid, vitamin C, and the Kaufmann diet, my Kaufmann 1 diet, for a month. Then come back and see me. If those antifungal supplements, or if the doctor will prescribe strong bloodstream antifungals like diflucan, Sporanox, Lamisil, Griseofulvin, some of those, you're going to know even quicker. It's going to take maybe a few days along with my diet. Okay, but doctors don't think that way because remember, everything's bacteria. Some things are virus. Rarely do we see fungus. Okay, so there we have 1942, 1944. Here comes 1957. There is reason to believe that systemic fungal infections have been becoming more prevalent recently, and they will probably continue to increase in incidence. And then 1979, in the journal The American Medical Association, the incidence of certain fungal infections should continue to accelerate, a trend especially disturbing, okay? Shh. The biggest selling drugs are fungal metabolites. They're called antibiotics. Shh. Yeast infections worsening. This is Dr. Pascure, and he said this in 2009. During the recent years, yeast has been causing more and more infections. It does little harm to our skin, but if it enters the bloodstream, it can eat you from the inside out. Can I get an amen? Okay. Fungus can mimic cancer. Look at this. Page 11 of a book I own, Pulmonary Coccidioidomycosis is suggestive of cancer. Page 115, localized cutaneous blastomycosis, a different fungus, is frequently mistaken for squamous cell carcinoma. Disseminated histoplasmosis is found to coexist with leukemia, lymphosarcoma, sarcoidosis, and Hodgkin's disease much more frequently than is statistically justifiable just based on coincidence. And finally, page 175, disseminated fungus closely simulates neoplasm. Wow. If your doctor only knew this. This was taught in a 1957 Johns Hopkins medical textbook. Where is it today? Gone. Fungus can mimic many misdiagnoses, or it can induce many misdiagnoses. Mimicking of tissue cells by fungal wall-free variants. Look at this. Wall-deficient fungal cells imitate blood cells of we vertebrates, people with backbones, right? Wall-deficient fungal cells imitate blood cells? You mean they're telling us our white count is high, and that might be fungus? They're telling us we're anemic, our red count is low, and that might be fungus? Spurious automated and manual platelet counts prove that yeast cells were mistaken for platelets. Wow. Houston, as we say in America, we have a problem. If we're misdiagnosing based on differential counts, blood counts, the yeast is in our body and it's looking like white blood cells or red blood cells. That's old research, 1970s, that's probably been fixed. We have a problem in America. To live healthy, I believe, is to live actively antifungal. Dr. Mike Smith joins me right now via Skype. They always have new products on the back burner. We pulled one of them out to the front burner, and we here at Know the Cause thought it was this important to get you this information because when Life Extension speaks, we listen. Dr. Smith, good to see you.
Good to see you, Doug. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great, and this product really has us excited.
Yeah. So, how often are you looking at your smartphone? How many minutes a day? How many hours a day do you think?
I'm good. I know for an hour a day.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably pretty low, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You got the millennials, the younger generations. I mean, it's constant, right? We know that those devices, the screens, they emit a very high energy light called blue light. Mm-hmm. And that blue light can be very damaging to the retina and specifically the macula, which has helped you to see very direct and very sharp, right? And so we're worried with that constant blue light exposure that we've never had before, right, as humans. Right. I mean, this is a recent thing when you look at all human history, right? Mm-hmm. You're talking a very small period of time. We have introduced something into our environment, something hitting us right in the face that we've never had before, and that's blue light from these digital screens. So we came up with a gummy that has a really highly absorbed form of a key antioxidant for your eyes called lutein, and also zeaxanthin. Now, those are common ones in capsules and stuff, but this new formula provides high bioavailability of these blue light filtering nutrients that are critical if you're going to be staring at a smartphone or any screen, really, computer screen as well, for a majority of your day. I mean, I know here in the office, I mean, we have project managers, man, they're busy, they're working hard, and they never look away. They're staring at that screen all day long. And so all of them should be taking this, right? And this is great. This is good for kids, teenagers, adults. It doesn't matter how old you are. So this is an issue that we're all facing. And that's why, protecting the retina, protecting your vision with these blue light filtering nutrients like zeaxanthin lutein is critical. And it's one of the best ways to keep your vision sharp. Because, hey, guess what? The smartphones aren't going away, right? I mean, they're gonna get bigger and brighter probably. So this really is a big issue, and we're really glad to bring this kind of product to the market.
Do you have a name for it yet, Dr. Smith?
Not quite, but once we do, I'll let you know.
Okay, good. We'll follow up with Dr. Smith on that because this is much needed. We know about the benefits of lutein and zeaxanthin and so forth. To have it in a gummy,
nice.
Genius, just genius. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Dr.
Good to see you. Friends, those of you who have purchased, and thousands of you have, thank you very much, the Fungus link to women's health problems, you'll know that every book I've ever published back starting 20 years ago has the Kaufmann diet. It started with a phase 1, phase 2 diet, and then because everybody seems to have an antifungal diet online now, it's popular, thank God, I changed it to the Kaufmann 1, Kaufmann 2, because there are tweaks in all these diets that I thought needed to be made. Okay, chapter 11. I will change my diet under 2 conditions. The new diet tastes great, and I feel better. Okay, let's take 5 minutes or so and expound on this Kaufmann diet, because like I said yesterday on my live Facebook segment, I'm convinced that many of you watching this show right now, if you would do nothing more then change your diet for 30 days, 1 month. You'll notice, that's weird. I feel great. I'm not depressed. I feel so much better. See, medical doctors aren't trained in nutrition at all. And there's no cover up there. They just don't think that's important. But as it turns out, it's hugely important. So I want to talk a little bit about the Kaufmann diet and then your volume switch. Those of you who have this book know I expounded on the volume switch. We don't have an off-on switch. I can't shut your migraines off. I can't turn your cancer off. But what I sell is a volume switch. I think you can turn your symptoms way up by going on the standard American diet, the acronym of which is SAD, or conversely, turn it way down to where you really feel good. So let me explain some 45, 50 years ago why I came up with this Kaufmann diet. And you'll notice it's plural, the Kaufmann diets. The Kaufmann 1 diet is what I want you to dwell on if you've never approached this. And the Kaufmann 2 diet is a graduation of the Kaufmann 1 diet. So if you have a serious disease, diabetes, lupus, cancer, heart disease, etc., kind of hang around the Kaufmann 1 diet with your doctor's approval, right? But the Kaufmann 2 diet, here's what they're for. They really serve 2 distinct purposes. First, to provide a properly balanced diet. That's so important. And second, to literally starve pathogenic fungi. That's what we try and do on this diet. There's many schools of thought, but let me tell you mine. If you have a serious systemic mycosis, a bloodstream fungal condition, or it's affecting the liver, the kidneys, the brain, etc., you need to think about starving it. It must eat. Once inside your body, if it doesn't get carbohydrates, sugars, it dies. Think about that. You need to starve it. But number 2, simultaneous with that, many of you who are extremely sick need to talk to your doctor about antifungals. And on my website, Getting Started, right there, knowthecause.com, Getting Started, pull it down. The last link is the doctor's fungal protocol. Science for your doctor. Print it off free, 2 pages. Take it to your doctor and ask him or her if you might get an antifungal drug along with the Kaufmann 1 diet. Okay, foods to avoid if you have a fungal disorder. Here they are. Corn, wheat, rye, barley. Isn't this interesting? Beet and cane sugars. Grains. Fungi impregnate these grains. Then peanut, alcoholic beverages, mushrooms, cottonseed oil. Okay? That's a big one. It's used in many animal foods and kind of used as an oil sometimes in our, I'm going to do a whole separate segment, so stay tuned to Know the Cause, because cotton is commonly impregnated with mold. What is toxic shock, the tampon disorder? I wonder. I've just got to wonder, and I did a whole segment on that. You'll see that at some time in the future. But you'll notice in the middle of this, it says alcoholic beverages. Okay? Folks, alcoholic beverages come in many shapes and sizes, and literally, you can go to American Heart, American Cancer, American Lung. They're all saying moderate drinking, which is, 50 bottles of wine a year for a woman and hundreds of gallons of beer for a man seem to be okay. 2 drinks a day for men. I don't buy that for 1 second. Why? Alcohol is the mycotoxin, ethanol is the mycotoxin of brewer's yeast. Please, as you age, think about no more glasses of wine, no more beers. It's something I think you've got to give up if you want to live. Look, I'm 70 years young now, haven't had an alcoholic drink for many, many years. There are things as we go on in life we just give up, right? And alcohol has got to be one of them. But let me expound on alcohol, okay? This next graphic is going to open some eyes. Wait a minute. I'm drinking kombucha. I'm drinking kefir. Most have low levels of alcohol in them. I did just see a company come out with no alcohol in it, which I think is good, but we're giving this stuff to our kids. Proponents drink them often. You don't drink a kombucha. You drink 7 kombuchas. And this could be a factor in their fungal illness. My concern is, and it's tiny, 0.05, 0.06, it's less than drinking a beer. But if the product sits for a while and ferments, you could get as much alcohol as in a beer. We've got to think, I like bacterial ferments, yogurt, sauerkraut. I like things like that. Yeast ferments remind me of alcohol, which is yeast ferments, it can become alcohol. So think about that with kombucha and kefir. I have no axe to grind with those companies, with these products, but they do tend to feed yeast if what you have is a yeast problem. Consider them almost alcoholic beverages, okay? So if you want to try the diet, it's in all the books. Give it a try and see how you feel after a month. Now you know this. Friends, joining me right now is a man I consider a friend also, Dr. David Perlmutter from Florida. He is not in practice anymore, but he's touring, lecturing all over the world. He wrote a couple of best-selling books, and they always have the name brain in them. He's a neurologist. This one is called Brain Wash. Not like it sounds, cleaning your brain out so that you can activate it to do what's right. Dr. Perlmutter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to see you, Doug. Thank you.
I always want 20 minutes with you. We get 5 minutes, but very quickly, give us the overview of the book. And I'm so thrilled to see Austin, your son, a doctor also, sharing in this book with you. Why was it necessary?
It was necessary because, we don't suffer from a lack of information these days. People, your audience especially, people know what to eat. They know we should get a good night's rest and exercise, all those things. But how many of us actually are able to follow through and carry out these recommendations? And it turns out that our decision-making apparatus has been hijacked by the trappings of our modern world. We know that happens when we're online. Everybody's aware of that, the ads, the pop-up ads, the clickbait, etc. But what we're not really aware of, but we call it out in the book, is the fact that even this modern Western diet that is spreading globally is actually changing the wiring of the brain through inflammation as one of the processes, and really leading us to lock into the parts of the brain that make our decision-making impulsive as opposed to thought out. Mm-hmm. So even as it relates to food choices, how much time you spend online, staying up too late, not getting a good night's sleep, distancing yourself from nature, whatever it may be, these are choices that we're making that are much more impulsive as opposed to being well thought out.
Yeah.
And we learned through our research that that same part of the brain that we're trying to gain access to make better decisions is that part of the brain that fosters empathy and compassion for other people, other parts of our planet, for example, so that we're being locked into a more primitive brain that's only interested in itself, that is involved in us versus them, and is very impulsive. And once we recognize the hacks that are taking place to keep us away from a more sophisticated brain functionality, then we're able to really rein it in. And that's what the latter part of the book is about. It's about utilizing the tools that we provide to get a better night's sleep, to change the inflammation index of our diets, to get outside a little bit, to recognize the value of prayer in restructuring the human brain. We talk about prayer being good for us, but prayer helps to make us more empathetic, and that benefits not just us, but everyone that we come into contact with. So it's been quite a wonderful experience to realize that this book, Brainwash, represents the bridge between information and action, and that's been really lacking.
You know, you and I for years, decades, dare I say, have been one at a time, I in clinical nutrition, you in neurology, talking to people one at a time, saying this. How many of them connect with it, folks, and what are the barriers to that connecting? That's what this book is all about. Some of you will read about nature healing, 5-6 pages in this book about it. What the good doctor just said about prayer, about 12 minutes a day. Slow down. You know, thank God. Things of that sort. But then diet. I mean, it's really important. We've been beating this drum for decades. Finally, a way to activate it, right?
Well, we can reconnect to that part of the brain that defines us as human. Forward-thinking, empathetic, compassionate beings. That's being taken away from us by our digital experiences, by the pro-inflammatory nature of our diets, by our lack of sleep, by our lack of connection with nature, and our lack of prayer and meditation. So we are providing the tools to re-access that gift that we all have sitting there waiting to welcome us back, so we can finally make better decisions, make decisions that think about the future consequences of what we decide to do today.
The book is called Brainwash. His son, Austin, who's a physician also, assisted him with this book. And I got to tell you, when you get to chapter 4, you'll open up Austin's heart. You'll begin to see who Austin really is. And this is the chapter that talks about why is our brain being hijacked. Dr. David Perlmutter, it's always good to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Great to see you, Doug.
Great to see you. So what do you think? Thumbs up? Good show? We try to make this show, by the way, it's in its 22nd consecutive year on television. Wow, man, we've broken some records there. I was a young, dark-haired guy then when I started this. Thank you for hanging in there with me through all these years. I remember I worked with a doctor in Dallas, and we used to get free diflucan samples. This is the one-pill vaginal yeast cure, but it's also an AIDS drug, and it's used to sop up yeast inside the body. And I asked the doctor, could I take a couple of these, 100 milligrams? Could I take a couple 100 milligrams in a couple days and see? And he said, well, it's not going to help you. You don't have yeast problems. Folks, I think many of us have yeast or fungal problems that are hidden. And once we begin starving it with the Kaufmann diet, once we begin killing it with products like caprylic acid or resveratrol or vitamin C or any number of supplements, we'll see, in fact, that many of us did have underlying yeast problems that were causing all sorts of weird symptoms. Hope you enjoyed today's show. God bless you. Bye-bye.